Hey, welcome back, people. Tonight we want to do something very special. Every episode we want to check in with Tobago. We want to see what's happening in Tobago. And who is better to update us on Tobago than Tobagonians themselves? So we're going to we're actually not sending anybody. We have a cameraman in Tobago. Big up M&ETV. You understand? Who do that better than us? We have a cameraman in... Oh, they cannot even talk to us. Anyhow, tonight we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Dr. Faith B. Yisrael. She's a social scientist whose focus is on health education, program development, and implementation. She's currently an active assemblyman in the Tobago House of Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me tonight, Dr. Faith B. Yisrael. Ma'am, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. And you could still say that Tobago is the best place to come vacation.
It is. If you know me, you know I fully agree. There's a rumor that I have 2 children in Tobago as well, Doc. It's not true. It's not true.
You seem to just be confirming that, eh?
So Dr. Faith, I could call you Doc. I could call you Faithy because I could call you Faithy, like because we.
Sure, that's fine.
So Faith, what's up? A lot of people don't know that right now there's a bill in the parliament for Tobago self-governance. I myself am not that aware, let me just say I'm not aware of the bill. I'm not knowledgeable of all the information in the bill. You can kind of keep us up to date with it, are you for it? Are you against it?
Well, okay, so that is a very odd place to jump in. Maybe it's good to give a little bit of context.
All right.
So last week we had the Joint Select Committee lay before Parliament their report of the consultations and the work that they had been doing as a result of, years and years of work. Right. So this is what happened. In 2016, Mr. Orville London, who was the Chief Secretary in the Tobago House of Assembly at that time, gave Dr. Keith Rowley, in essence, a bill or 2 bills that says, this is what I want you to do. Tobago autonomy is a really serious issue for us. We would like you to go through the process of getting the level of autonomy. And we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. Mm-hmm. We want to have this process go through the Parliament so that Tobago would have a greater ability to do what we need to do to develop ourselves. Mr. Orville London laid that bill or a slightly different version of that bill in 2018, right. Sent it to the Joint Select Committee, which is something that, all bills go through, at least bills that are really intense and need a lot of work, goes through the Joint Select Committee. And the Joint Select Committee did its work. It so happened that the election of 2020 came about. The work was not completed at that time. The good thing is that the PNM regained the control of the Parliament in 2020, in August 2020. Right. And the good thing is that they continued the work. So they preserved the work of the Joint Select Committee so that we didn't really have to, start from scratch. Right. And they then said early in the year that, here we've done some work, let's do some consultations in Tobago in April. And we did those consultations. They were kind of feisty.
Right, of course. Of course.
Yes, because we recognize that some of the things that we in Tobago said we wanted in 2016 somehow did not make it into the draft documents. And we then had consultations again in June, early June. And we then realized, okay, so we are having this meeting on June the 4th, I think it was, but the document we're talking about, we only got it on June the 3rd, the night of June the 3rd.
Right, so
and by the way, exactly. But the little bit of reviewing that we did, we recognized again that it had significant changes between even what we were talking about in April.
All right.
So we basically said to the Joint Select Committee, I know you guys have your timeline, I know you guys have to do what you have to do, but we would like to have a little bit more time to work with Tobago, to talk with Tobagonians to see whether we agree or disagree with this bill.
I feel you.
Or with, yeah.
So what are some things that you don't agree with the current bill?
So there are several key things. It's important to note that when Dr. Rowley laid the bills in Parliament in 2018, he identified four key things that we had to be very, very conscious of. One was equality of status between Trinidad and Tobago, because that is something that we've been pushing for. We want to see that these two islands are equal.
Right.
Not one is little and one is big, but
Yeah.
they are on equal footing. He also said back then that we wanted to have a federal-like type of relationship, kind of like what is happening in the United States, where each state is different, but then there's a federal government overarching. We also wanted to have delineation of our boundaries, as in maritime boundaries and that kind of thing. And we wanted to ensure that whatever the entity was responsible for Tobago had the ability to make policies for those issues. So those were the four critical things that Dr. Rowley said that those were critical to important things for Tobago. Now, coincidentally, those are all of the things that we still have issues with. Because when you go through the document, fine tooth comb kind of thing, you realize that there are issues with all of those, with all the areas that deal with all of those things.
Wow.
So, for example, and let me read something that is there. Because we are talking about Trinidad and Tobago, what we want is, as I said before, equality of status between Trinidad and Tobago. That is what we wanted. But one of the first clauses in the bill is that it is going to change the preamble of the Constitution, and it is going to change the preamble of the Constitution to say equality of status between the people of the island of Trinidad and the people of the island of Tobago.
Right.
Now, any constitutional lawyer would tell you that just by adding the people of, you've now changed the complete meaning of that clause. So you've now removed the island being equal to now the people in the island being equal, which we already know that the people are equal because our constitution said that a long time ago that we are equal people. So, when you asked at the beginning, did we agree with it? There are many things in the bill that we agree with, but there are many things in the bills that we can't agree with because they really just do not represent what the people of Tobago have been saying that we want.
So once this bill is passed, will Tobago have a legislative arm? You will have your own president, you will prime minister, or a premier? Like what will be the case?
So if it is passed as is, which again, this is another thing that we have an issue with, we would have some legislative powers, meaning powers to make laws, but it would be pretty limited, which is part of our problem. Because we have a very long list of things we would have administrative control over, which is what the Tobago House of Assembly currently has now, and a much shorter list of things that we have legislative control over. So let me give an example that is everyone can think about. We all know that a reason why everybody comes to Tobago is to go to Bucko Reef and Island Pool, okay?
Yeah.
So if we are saying that we want to have administrative and legislative control, it means that if Tobago decides that, hey, Bucko Reef kind of dying, the brain corals are dying, we need to give it a little bit of time to revive itself.
Yeah.
The way the law is written now, we would not be able to make a law that says that. We would still have to come back to the parliament and say, would you guys please consider making a law about Bucko Reef? When what we would like is to be able in Tobago to just make that law.
Because you are there, so you know exactly what Tobago would need.
Exactly. So the way it's written now, we would not have our own president. So no, there's no additional president. There is no additional prime minister. We would have.
So it will be the same prime minister, president. Okay.
Yeah. And that is important too because most people in Tobago, and I say most, the vast majority of people in Tobago want the country, Trinidad and Tobago, to stay together. Yeah. So if we go ahead and get our own president, our own prime minister, that would imply that we are separating and, we are becoming two different countries. But that is not what we want. We want to stay together, but just be able to do a lot more on our own without having to, in essence, come to Trinidad to have the parliament in Trinidad agree or disagree and so forth.
Understood. So it's basically letting Tobago see about Tobago in a sense. Doc, they're giving me the signal to wrap it up. I enjoy the conversation. So, of course, I would push for you to be back and we discuss a little bit more about Tobago. One more question before you leave. In 10 years, where do you see Tobago? Do you see the Honorable Prime Minister of Tobago, Dr. Faith Yisrael, there, or what do you see in the future for Tobago?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think I just want to spend some time affecting change positively in Tobago. Ideally, I would want us to be in a situation that when, if for example, Trinidad is in problems, we have a situation now with foreign exchange. I want to be able to develop Tobago to a point where Tobago could say, hey, y'all don't worry about the foreign exchange problem. We could, we could help out with that kind of thing. That would be my dream of what Tobago could develop to become.
Nice. So everybody in Trinidad and Tobago, you all heard it right here from Dr. Faith B. Yisrael. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to talk to you soon. Probably whenever I'm in Tobago. I will
yes, thank you.
All right, so enjoy the rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. That was Dr. Faith B. Yisrael, all the way from Tobago, filling us in on what's happening in our sister island. Okay? We'll be right back.